Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome. My name is Richard Letterman. For those of you who don't know me, I've been leading services here at the Hebrew Home for about 15 years. I wish we could be together in person, but unfortunately not. Hopefully soon. But in the meantime, I'm sure we can enjoy Kabbalat Shabbat together in this video. We're going to begin on page 14 of our Sidur, Yedid Nefesh. Yedid nefesh av harachaman meshoch avdach el ritzonach yarutz avdach kemo ayam Yishtachave el muhadarach Yerav lo yedidutach minofetzu vechol ta'am hadur na'eh Ziv haolam nafshi cholat ahavatach ana elna refana la beharod la noam zivach אז תתחזק ותתרפא והייתה לך שפחת עולם ותקיימו רחמך בחוסנה Ben Ohavach Ki ze kama nichsaf Liro Tiferet Uzach Ana Eli Mahmad Libi חושנה ואל תתעלם הגלנה ופרוס חביב עלי את סוכת שלומך תאיר ארץ מכבודך נגילה ונשמחה בך מהר אהוב כי במועד וחנני כי מעולם yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 die. You know, if you look at the English of this song, it's really quite beautiful. It's a love song, really. It is our soul's yearning to be with God. Beautiful, beautiful song. Okay, we're going to continue now. There are 7 psalms that lead us through Kabbalat Shabbat. We're going to start on page 15 with Lechunu Ranana. Page 15. Lechuna ranana ladonai naria letzur yishenu nekad mafana b'toda b'zmirot naria loki asher lo hayava asa. Three lines from the bottom. 40 shana kut bedor, va'omar am to'e levavhem, v'hem lo yadu drachai, asher nishbati b'api, im yevon el menuchati. Page 16. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruch Hu shema v'asram. 4 lines from the bottom, a great melody. Yismechu hashamayim, the heavens rejoice. If you know the melody, sing along. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. 2 lines from the bottom. Lifnei Adonai kiva, kiva lishbot haaretz, yishbot tevel b'tzedek, Yamim be'emunato. Page 17. Adonai malach tagel haaretz, yismechu im rabim. Anan v'arafas v'yivav v'tzet v'mishmav. 2 lines from the bottom. Or zaru ala tzadik, ule yishre lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, ule yishre lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodsho. Page 18. Shir Adonai shir chadash, ki niflo rasaho, shi alo yamino v'zro kodsho, di Adonai yishuato. 2 lines from the bottom. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel b'tzedek, v'yamim b'meisharim. Page 19. Adonai malach yekazu amim, yoshev keruvim tanut haaretz. Adonai b'tzion gadol. Three lines from the bottom. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Okay, we are going to move on to page 20. This is our final final psalm of Kabbalat Shabbat. We actually also sing this song, when we return the Torah to the Ark on Shabbat morning. But we have a really lovely, lively melody that we sing on Friday evening to this psalm. If you know the words, you know the melody, sing along with me. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu Ladonai b'nei Elim, Havu Ladonai kavod va'oz, Havu Ladonai kivod shmo, Ishtachavu Ladonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, El hakavod hirim, Adonai, Adonai, al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arze halavanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel Levanon v'Sirion, כמו בין רעמים. כל אדוני חוצב לבודש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יחולל איילות, ויחשוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו, כולו אומר כבוד. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, Adonai yevarech amo v'shalom. And now we move on to our favorite Kabbalat Shabbat song, Lecha Dodi. Also sort of a love song, right? We call Shabbat a bride. Shabbat is a bride, the Kala, the bride, and we are the bridegroom. And God rejoices in this marriage between Shabbat and the Jewish people. So we'll sing Lecha Dodi every other verse. Of course, when we get to the very last verse on page 22, we will welcome the Shabbat bride. But now we're on page 21. We're going to do every other verse. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmiyanu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'tila. Everybody, Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzei mitoch ha'hafecha, Rav lach shevet b'yemek habacha, v'hu yachamol alayich chemla. Everybody, Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Second paragraph of page 22. והיו למשיסה שועשייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהיך, כמשוש חתן על כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Last paragraph, we welcome the Shabbat bride. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. Last time, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We're going to go now to page 23, a Shabbat psalm. I'm going to drop down to the last 4 lines of this psalm. Wonderful message here that the righteous flourish like a palm tree, even in old age, the righteous bear fruit. And there's a really lovely melody that goes with these last 4 lines. If you know the melody, sing along. It goes like this. Tzadikat amar yifrach, ke'erez balevanon, Yiskei shetulim beveit Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu, od yenuvun beseva, deshenim verananim yeyu, lehagid ki ashar Adonai, tzuri tzuri velo avlatabo. We move on to page 24. Adonai malach lavesh lavesh. Edotecha nemnu me'od levetcha nava kodesh, Adonai le'orech yamim. This evening marks the beginning of the 13th day of the month of Elul. Those in mourning and those observing Yartzeit, Mourner's Kaddish, the middle of page 24, middle of page 24. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol bei Israel, v'agala uv'zman kari v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam leomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Okay, so before we begin the Ma'ariv service for Erev Shabbat, I would like to offer you a bit of a Dvar Torah. So this week's parasha is Ki Tetzeh, and it's full of mitzvot. Now, when we talk about mitzvot, we distinguish between mitzvot ben adam lamakom, that is mitzvot between a person and God, and on the other hand, mitzvot ben adam lechavero, that is mitzvot between a person and another person. And it turns out that Ki Tetzeh is filled with mitzvot ben adam lechavero, that is mitzvot between a person and another person, pretty much exclusively in this parasha. Now, some of these mitzvot would strike us as pretty archaic, even brutal. Like, for instance, what do you do with a stubborn and rebellious son who is a glutton and a drunkard, and you've tried to discipline him but unsuccessfully? What do you do? Well, according to Parashat Ki Tetzeh, the people stone him to death. By the way, ask my mother. If I had been growing up in biblical times, I'd be dead. Admittedly, our ancient sages mitigated these kinds of brutal mitzvot by creating all sorts of conditions that would make it virtually impossible to carry out such a brutal act. Or how about this one? A man accuses his new wife of not being a virgin. The father of the bride hangs the bed sheets out in public to show that she was a virgin. Imagine this poor new bride with proof of her virginity hung out in public. The husband who falsely accused his new bride is flogged and has to pay 100 shekels to the father of the bride. What about the poor bride? But what if the charge is true? There's no evidence of the bride's virginity. The elders of the town stone her to death. But there are also mitzvot that we would consider very enlightened. If you see a bird nest with eggs in it, and you may take the eggs, but you must not take the mother bird. You must let her go. I suppose there is something quite cruel about taking the eggs and the mother together. Besides, there's a certain ecology. If you release the mother, she can lay more eggs and engender more birds. Or how about the laws of crops and harvesting? Let's say you're wandering through your neighbor's grape field or grain field. I'm sure it's something you do all the time, right? You're hungry. So you take some grapes or grains and you eat them. That's okay. But you can't put them in your bag or your purse to eat later. And that makes sense, right? You're hungry. You're free to eat, but the grapes aren't yours to harvest and take home. Or say you're harvesting your fields and you forget to take some of the harvest into the barn. You leave it in the field. You can't go back to the field to fetch it. You have to leave it for the alien, the widow, the orphan, the poor. Or if you're harvesting grapes, you can go through the field only once. Whatever remains is for the alien, the poor, the widow, and the orphan. Now, whether or not we like each of these mitzvot, they all teach us something important. I've mentioned before that when we say the Shema, we have a bracha before the Shema that tells us about God's love for us. And then, right after the Shema, we recite V'ahavta, insisting that we should love God in return. Love is always mutual. Here we learn that love of God and love of each other are one. If you love God, it simply stands to reason that you love each and every one of God's creations, including the mother bird. And if you truly love all creation, it only stands to reason that you love the source of that creation. One more thing. We are now reciting the 5th of the 7 Haftarot of consolation between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah. Again, as during each of these weeks, we're reminded that God's commitment to God's people and God's love for God's people is eternal. God may get angry at times, just like I might get angry with my wife or my kids or, believe it or not, even my mother. But the kind of deep love that we feel for our kin is the kind of deep love that God feels for us. Okay, we're going to continue with the Mari service on page 28. I really enjoy reading in English the poem at the bottom of the page written by Andre Unger. I find it very meaningful. This prayer tells us that we live in this very stable universe. Light follows darkness, darkness follows light. The stars are set and arranged in the sky. Seasons follow one another. It's good to know that the universe is stable and predictable. So let's read this paragraph at the bottom of page 28 together. Beloved are you, eternal God, by whose design the evening falls, by whose command dimensions open up, and eons pass away, and stars spin in their orbits. You set the rhythms of day and night. The alternation of light and darkness sings your creating word. In rising sun and in spreading dusk, creator of all, you are made manifest. Eternal, everlasting God, may we always be aware of your dominion. Beloved are you, Adonai, for this hour of nightfall. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ari Varavim. We're going to go to page 29. There's a lovely melody that goes with Ahavat Olam. Again, talking about God's love for us by giving us the Torah, which gives our lives stability and predictability and ties us to God. We're going to sing this song, and I'm going to finish off with the last 2 lines. And after I do that, we're going to go straight into Shema Yisrael and V'ahavta on page 30. Right now we're on page 29, Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, v'shochbeinu v'kumenu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla. V'yahavatcha al tasir mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Everybody, Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We're going to continue with the V'ahavta on page. Things aren't working very well for me today. I'm very sorry, but it's not me, it's my computer. It doesn't seem to want to advance at my command. It's not being very nice. Okay, V'ahavta, the middle of page 30. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Let's go on to page 31. We can also sing this part of the Shema Virchotea, the blessings that go with the Shema. We can also sing this according to the Torah trope. Page 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'yamarta alehem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf b'til techelet v'haya lachem לתציצית וריתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We are now going to go on to page 32. In the middle of the page by the box, I'm going to chant the little introduction and we're going to sing a Micha Mocha together. Middle of the page, what did I say? It's not working right. Sorry, 32, middle of page 32. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא מלכותך רבניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלי אנו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. We're going to move on to page come on, page 23. I'm sorry, 33, page 33. Again, why don't we read some in English? This little poem by Jules Harlow in the middle of the page in English. As a mother comforts her children, so I myself will comfort you, says Adonai, and you will find peace in Jerusalem. Past troubles will be forgotten, hidden from sight. Jerusalem will be a delight, her people a joy, and you will find peace in Jerusalem. None shall hurt and destroy in all my holy mountain, says the Creator, whose throne is heaven, says Adonai, who also seeks peace in Jerusalem. Each month at the new moon, each week on Shabbat, all people, all my children shall worship me, and says Adonai, who will also find peace and consolation in Jerusalem. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, hapore sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 34. V'shamru, Shabbat is a sign of our relationship with God. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת, שבת וינפש. The silent Amidah goes from page 35A or 35B to page 38. We'll take a few minutes to either recite the silent Amidah silently or to recite your own meditations or prayers. Let's take a few minutes of silence. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Okay, give me a minute to get my screen moving here so I can move us along. Some technical difficulties here, sorry. Well, all I can say, folks, is thank goodness for the pause button on this video recorder. We're going to move now to page 47 of our Siddur. I'll give you a moment to turn to page 47. Vayechulu, we'll do this, excuse me, this paragraph at the top of the page and then jump down to Magen Avot at the bottom. Page 47. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam vayichal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa Vayivarech Elohim et Yom Hashvi, Vayikadesh oto, Kivo Shabbat mikol melachto, Asher bara Elohim lasot. Bottom of the page. Magen Avot bidvaro, Mechaye metim, במאמרו האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו כי בם רצה להניח להם כי בם רצה להניח להם לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד מעין הברכות אל ההודעות אדון השלום מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי ומניח בקדושה לימדו שני עונג זכר למעשה וראשית. Okay, we are going to continue now with Aleinu on page 51. Page 51, Aleinu. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Again, this evening marks the beginning of the 13th day of the month of Elul. Those who are observing Yartzeit or are in mourning, Mourner's Kaddish, page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'leolmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalel aleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Damiran Bialma Vimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Vimru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Vimru Amen. Okay, my friends, I'm going to have us turn back to page 13 to conclude our service with that wonderful song, Shalom Aleichem, where we welcome God's ministering angel into our midst to celebrate Shabbat with us. Page 13, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu boachem leshalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon mi melech Malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu Baruchuni l'shalom Malachei hashalom Malachei elyon Mi melech malachei hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitekhem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu. I'd like to wish all of you Shabbat Shalom Umvarach, and I hope to see you sometime very soon in person. Shabbat Shalom.